Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Hello, hello.
We're Ned.
How are
Happy
you?
Thursday. Great.
Yeah.
It's leap year. Doesn't feel like it, but
Extra day.
Exactly.
A free day.
Yes, Marks. Good to see your face. Ed,
Sorry, over here trying to close my dad's estate. I have the last piece of paperwork that I need to send to Arizona.
Oh my gosh. Thank goodness.
Still working
Closing
on
out.
that? Dang.
Quite a process.
Almost a year.
Oof. I'm excited about today's topic. It's kind of my AOR, kind of something that I've been specializing in for a really long time. Pretty ready for it. Morning, Chris. Good to see your face, Schnigs. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has. Were you on vacation? Didn't you do some trip or something?
No, I just got a lot of minutia going on with the developer stuff and stuff like that.
Good. That's great.
So staying busy.
Excellent.
Vacation in April.
Oh, sweet.
It's never really a vacation, I guess.
No, it never is. Ours is coming up the end of next month. So
oh, good.
4-week countdown till we can go enjoy.
That's like your hubby said, if you want to get busy in real estate, just go on vacation.
Exactly. Yes. Dave, I meant to mention something to you last week, but I loved your post on the beard. I didn't know that you hadn't been able to grow one before.
Yeah, the beard was just a pattern break in my life.
Yeah.
I never had one, and I did the whole off-grid beard, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a beard, all right. And it was just time. It was time for it to go, so.
That's awesome. It's great to see your shining face.
It's shining like my head.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. Love it. We'll give another minute or two. A couple other people are coming on. Good morning, guys.
Yeah, you're speaking about a vacation, Rach. Yeah, I just canceled my tickets for tomorrow to Phoenix.
Oh no. Why?
I had 2 relo clients show up into town without notice.
Oh my gosh, of course. Okay.
$2 million in sales. I'm like, I can't go.
Nope. Priorities in this market. All right. We'll give one more minute. Good morning. We do promote everybody to panelists, but you're welcome to just chill in the background if you want to as well. That's totally fine. Today's all about the listing side. Excited to have this conversation. Ed has also had a little bit of experience in this arena. So
I've done 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Same.
I've probably done more units than some people, but some people's done more dollars. You know how it goes?
Fair. Yes. I would probably venture to bet that's probably our exact situation. You've probably done quite a few more units than me in your years, but my price point, our volume may be the same at this point.
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't go that far.
All right, guys, let's get this recording. Oh, it is recording. Go live on Facebook. All right, getting this into the Facebook group real quick. There it is. Go live. Hold, please. There we go. Okay, we are live on Facebook. Excellent. Well, good morning, guys, and welcome back to Build Mastermind. Ed Stroud and myself, Rachael Novak, are your hosts today, your moderators for the conversation. Each week we meet to discuss something in regards to the real estate business. So anywhere from personal development, professional development, we talk about foundational pillars like fitness, and then we talk tactics. Most of the people on here are very actively involved in the real estate market. And so it's really important that we come together every single week and discuss what's working, what's not working, as well as continue to develop as people and agents in this market. So today, Ed and I are going to be talking all about listing appointment process. And I kind of want to frame this a little bit first, because where I'd like to start is kind of in the initial conversations, what we kind of look for in regards to when we're talking to leads or when we're talking to Sphere, how we pivot into the conversation of an actual appointment, how we frame that and how we bring value about that appointment. And then we can go into what we prepare. How do we prepare? What do we prepare? What do we bring? What do we look at and specifically? And then we can talk about the actual appointment itself. So, Ed, would you like to share a little bit about your conversations with people? And when you're either talking to leads or talking to repeat clients or talking to Sphere, how do you kind of transition into this makes sense now for us to meet and me to come over and value your home?
I think, number one, it always makes sense for me to come to your house. I don't care if it's 6 months early, if it's next week, I don't care. I want in front of my client or potential client the soonest I can get there, because that's where I start bringing value, is from day one when I can get in front of them. So that's kind of our big take, is we want to be in front of them ASAP. And I don't care if you're in the beginning stages of, we've been thinking about it. Well, let's sit down and talk, right? Let's sit down and have a conversation. Why are you thinking about it even? And then you get to the, I mean, a lot of you guys know this. That's where you get to the crux of it. You get to know the real motivation, there is no time frame sometimes, but we got to find the real motivation and what's going to make them happy. And is it even doable on what they want to do? So that's where I start 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important that we think about, there's a lot of coaches and a lot of real estate gurus out there that are telling you, you can change these language patterns and you can talk somebody in and almost kind of trick them into this listing appointment and get in your foot in the door, right? And guys, that's not our approach. Our approach is, these are people, they have needs, they have wants, they have priorities. How do we get to the crux in Ed's language? How do we get to their initial, like, deep down motivation? So in conversations, one of the biggest things when it comes to listings is us as agents, we have to stay completely detached from the outcome, right? Completely detached from the outcome. Because the second that you start going, no, let's meet and here's why, and I can do all these things and I can do this and I can do this for you. Guys, I've said this before, people don't care what you can do. They care about what's best for them. So has anybody recently gone on? Yeah, they do smell the hard sell. Exactly, Sean. Commission breath, or commission cologne, as a friend of mine called it the other day, which is perfect. Something that you can spray on or not. Yeah, check chaser. They'll love it. Yeah, when it comes to having conversations, guys, like, real estate at the end of the day is a numbers game. It's numbers and it's output of activity. Right. So the more people that we can get in front of and the more people that we can talk to, we're not ever going to talk somebody into selling their home, right? But we can certainly have conversations with them and guide them through a realization that it might be the right time, or uncover the fact that maybe they've been thinking about it. So I love that, Ed. And I'm the same way. I would say that I wouldn't even say, I know that over the last 6.5 years, my sign rate, so my met to sign rate for clients, is between 80 and 85%, which is apparently pretty good. But I only sign maybe 40% of those people at the appointment. Maybe 40%. This is a nurture game. We have to wrap our minds around the fact that these people have their own timelines. Everybody's is completely different. And so every time we're having conversations with somebody and it's possible that they may be thinking about selling, I love, Ed, let's sit down and have a conversation about this. Like, let's figure out if this makes sense for you right now. Is somebody going to say no to that? Probably not.
Well, and it's all the knowledge you have on how to do this. So finding out the information and then applying your expertise back to them and showing them, that's where the value comes in. Well, they always want to show you, if you go to their house, they're always going to show you what? Hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We got to do this before we do it. And you all know that half the time they don't need to do that stuff. It's stop. You're not getting your money back. Don't do that.
Exactly.
That's where I think being in front of them and just talking through the whole scenario, and then even financial. I mean, hopefully most of you understand the financial side beyond just the loan and all that, but just what's good for them overall. We had somebody in the other day that was asking me if I was related to another Stroud that we had worked with. Well, I said, no, I'm not related, but we're really good friends now. And not because of our last name, but because her husband died in the middle of the transaction. Her husband died before we got our house sold. And he was the breadwinner. He was the guy that took care of the finances, and she didn't know what to do. And there's a huge testimonial out on the radio we play once in a while, and it's out in different sites and stuff. We sat down and said, look, let me get my arms wrapped around this whole thing with you now, because now it's just not a house sale. It's you got to figure some things out. Let me bring some experts in. Let's a bit of financial advisor in front of you. Let's talk about your income and what you got coming in and what you can afford now versus what you were going to do earlier. That's when you win over a client, is when you come in and step into their lives and help them at the right time with the right things. Not,
Absolutely.
hey, I want to sell your house.
That's exactly right.
3,000 other people out there want to sell your house.
Yeah.
That differentiates you no way.
Exactly. I think my favorite language pattern when I'm talking to somebody and they're like, well, I've been thinking about selling, but I think I have quite a bit of work to do around the home first, or, I've done a lot of stuff. I think there's other things that I want to do. That is a perfect time to insert yourself and say, hey, part of what I do, part of what I am trained to do and what I have done for my clients hundreds and hundreds of times now over the years is I actually meet with them for like months ahead and sometimes years ahead of when they're actually thinking of selling. Because what my job is to make sure that every penny that you put into the home and however much time you put into the projects in your home is going to pay off in this current market, right? Nobody wants to spend money and not see the return on that investment. So part of our job is to make sure to say, hey, one of the reasons that we like to meet with our clients as soon as possible so that we can start creating a game plan. I don't want you to go and remodel your bathroom or put new countertops in or, repaint the exterior of your home a color that isn't going to actually increase the value. I tell my clients, I shoot for a minimum of a 2-to-1 ROI. For every $1 you put in, I want to see $2 back on the sold price, right? And sometimes in some markets, that was like a 10-to-1 ROI. It was phenomenal. But 2-to-1 ROI is so important. So being able to relay that that's why we meet early. It's not because I want to sell your house right now, just to be clear. Like for me, this is about your timing. This is about your life. This is about your priorities. And like Ed said, most people don't have a date. Like, oh, I need to sell it by May. Most people are like, well, when I find the right house. That's when we start with the listing. So we can start creating a game plan, because when you are able to advise them and now you're nurturing them every single week and now you're checking in on them, now you're helping provide them contractors, now you're helping provide them vendors, now you're connecting them with people locally, local businesses in order to help those projects that they're doing around the house, you're bringing value, right? That is all of the work. Therein lies the magic with which we bring to our clients.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we forget how much the clients need to lean on us for our expertise. I had some nice folks that were building a house out of state, and they said, well, it's not going to be done until December, so we want to sell in November. I was like, well, if you want to get the max dollar, I would suggest selling it a little bit sooner, maybe like in the summer. And then they said, well, where we're going to live. I'm like, well, you can get an apartment. Well, we don't want to move anywhere. So it was this big discussion that we had, and find out that they don't want to leave. They wanted to spend one more summer in Seattle since they were here the last 25 years. So we found a place. Oh, well, we have a dog. It doesn't take dogs. Well, it doesn't take this type of dog. And it's like, well, I talked to a few people and they said, oh, just get a emotional support pet letter. And, there's just things that people depend on that we do. And it's like, everything is worked out. They're excited. We're going to sell the house next month. And, I got my contractor over there doing some touches that we're going to rebuild the whole house, like you said. And I'm like, no, you guys don't need to do that. Let's put some lipstick on this, throw some carpet over here. And really, you don't need to spend a lot more than that. So,
Chris, the funny thing about that, what you're talking about is what, I'll go back to Gary Keller just because that's where I heard it, but the path is in the math. The path is in the math with that whole equation right there, because in all reality, I want to sell or I don't want to sell early. Well, what's the numbers say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Does it make sense to sell early? If you would have showed them a certain number there that says you'll get this much more, blah, 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 they might go, well, hell, maybe I do want to sell early then. But knowing all that, like you do, I'm sure you did share that type of stuff with them. Now, all of a sudden, making those decisions are not just emotional, but they're business decisions is what they become.
Exactly. And I try to take, I think a lot of our jobs take a lot of the emotion out of it. I mean, moving is a very emotional thing. So the more emotion we can take out of it, so everybody likes to see more money. Most people do. I mean, so if you can show them that, it makes sense to do it this way. They said, well, instead of paying our mortgage, I guess we can just pay a rent payment. And then now you found us a place that we can get our dog in, and everybody's happy. I mean, they're excited. And, when you said about listing appointments, when I first started, I'd go on a lot of listing appointments, but I don't think I've had a lot of listing, but I don't think I've ever signed a client at the appointment. It was always something. It could have been the next day, but just at the appointment, I don't think I've ever signed somebody the same day. So it does take, it's like a relationship. It's like a first date. You got to make sure that you guys are a good fit for each other.
100%.
If you force the signing on the first meeting, it feels very transactional. You know what I mean? It feels kind of self-serving. There's a time and a place for it, for sure. Like, I always bring listing paperwork. Sometimes they just ask me to sign it. I'm like, well, sure, here you go. Why not? But it kind of just becomes a byproduct of the conversation, the relationship development. You know what I mean? Like, if you do that, then of course you're going to sign the listing. It's just the next part of the process once you get to that point. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like to talk about everything except the house, and just kind of get familiar ground with them, and I think that creates you're not just there for the quick buck, which you're not. I mean, we all get emotionally invested in our customers and stuff like that too. I mean, I do anyway, so I like relationships after the transaction closes.
Absolutely. Any other input in regards to setting that initial appointment before we pivot over to how to prepare for that appointment? Okay, great. Let's pivot. So when you have the appointment set, so now in our world and on our team, we call it a home valuation appointment, an HVA. So we don't actually call it a listing presentation. We don't call it a listing appointment. We call it a home valuation. That we are here to discuss what your home could potentially sell, what your time frame looks like. If you don't know your time frame, that's okay. That's part of our job, is to help navigate that. And to Chris's point, for most people, how I explain what time is best to sell is completely dependent on their situation. For somebody who is selling and buying in the same marketplace, so if they're buying and selling in Snohomish County or in Chicago or in Kansas City or in St. Joe's, Missouri, if they're selling and buying in the same place, guys, it doesn't really matter what time of year they sell and buy, because any softening that they may feel on the listing side, they're going to also experience on the buy side, right? So being able to explain that and say, hey, all ships rise and fall with the tide. So throughout the year, you're going to see this happen. But if you're buying and selling in the same market, it doesn't matter what time of year that happens, right?
All they're doing is shifting equity.
Exactly. Love that language pattern. They're shifting equity. But for a lot of our clients, a lot of my clients specifically in the last 5 years, I've had like 50% of my clients move out of state, right? They've moved to Texas and Florida and Tennessee and whatever. And so if you're just selling in that market, then there is strategy in timing of the marketplace. If you guys ever watch Keeping Current Matters, First of all, if you don't watch Keeping Current Matters, please go watch that. They do a deep dive every Monday and it's phenomenal. It's like 30 minutes or less, but he breaks down such good data in regards to appreciation. He talks about mortgage rates. He talks about interest. He talks about everything. And what he looked at a couple of weeks ago, over a 40-year average, he looked at the amount of appreciation that happens every month throughout the year. And of course, it's cyclical, right? So in our market, there's been insane appreciation over the last 5 or 6 years. Most markets have had that same thing, but in ours, especially, it's with like 50, 60, 70% in some pocket markets, appreciation in that short amount of time. But what we see is not every month is appreciating at the same rate, right? January, you're going to get maybe this much appreciation, and then February up a little bit more. And then March, April, May, June, you have the most amount of appreciation happening throughout that year. And then it plateaus back down in the summer, stays in the fall. You've got one little bump in October and then down again. That doesn't mean that values are going down. It just means the rate of appreciation is slowing down depending on the month. So to explain that in layman's terms to a client, it's simple as this. What I've noticed cyclically over the last 6 years or X amount of years that I've been in this industry, if you're buying and selling in the same market, it really does not matter in regards to what time of year you buy and sell. Because as Ed said, you're just shifting equity. You're taking equity from this home and putting it into the next home, utilizing it to upsize or downsize or whatever their goal is. Now, if you're moving out of state or you're moving out of this market, there is some strategy involved. In my experience, and from what I can tell by the data, March, April, May, and June is the most amount of appreciation that you're going to get in your home. Therefore, it is cyclically proven to be the highest rate of return in regards to when to sell your home. This is data. Again, we're taking emotion out of it and we're bringing logic and bringing data into the conversation so that they can make a business decision. On the buy side, we want to focus on emotion. We want to focus on the dream. We want to focus on where they're going and, of course, make sense with the numbers. On the sell side, guys, we have to use data. We have to use logic. We have to look at this like a business transaction and be the authority in this. You speak to that, Ed?
Yeah, like I said, I always like the path is in the math. I mean, in all reality, typically you're going to sit down with a couple and you're going to have two different profiles you're sitting down with. One of them is going to want to talk about what they did to the house and the paint colors and all the stuff. And the other person's probably going to want to know more about the math. And that's what I've seen in most of our listing appointments. You better do both. You better bring both. You need to be able to talk to I love the carpet you put in and all the stuff, which I suck at more than my wife does. But when it comes down to numbers and sitting down and walking through what we're going to do, that's where I excel. And
Love it.
I think that's what you have to be ready for both those conversations for sure.
Absolutely. So what do we prepare for our listing appointments, for our home valuation appointments? Pulling comps, easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Well, let's talk about that. Depending on the house. So how we pull comps is, of course, we pull the address, we pull all the pendings, actives, solds within the last 180 days in a 1 to 2 mile radius maximum, depending on the density of that particular neighborhood. So with some properties, like in our market, we have acreage properties, and further up in the county, and then further down in Everett, we have a very dense, urban area. And so you may only need to go out 1/4 mile or 1/2 mile. So, but what are we looking for when we're looking at comps? Looking for relatively same age, relatively same size, relatively similar beds, baths, relatively similar condition from what we can see in pictures. Okay. It's really important that as we're looking at this data and bringing this data, we aren't owning the data and we also aren't promising pricing, right? We are just bringing up and showing what is actively done. So how do we explain what actives are? What are active comparable homes?
Currently active on the market, like the competition that you're going to have.
Competition.
So,
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
Competition.
That's a big one. You can look at DOM, days on market too, with some of these houses and figure out where the the bogeys are with it. You know, in this
Mhm.
market, if a house is on the market for 90 days, obviously something's going on with it.
Mhm.
Right. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So how we explain these different homes is so incredibly key, right? As we're pulling these comps, we're looking at everything that's actively for sale, anything that's pending. I personally call every single listing agent to try to find out how traffic was, what kind of information I can find out about the actual offer they accepted, and then like any details that I know. Were there any big credits that were given? Did you give a significant price reduction on the price? I want to know that information. That's part of our job, guys, is going in with the information of what's actually going on in the market. Because if they can see, oh, these 3 homes went pending, this one took quite a while, but then I'm able to add in, I actually spoke with that listing agent and those guys actually came down 20,000 off that price. Or those guys actually pended, they had 5 offers and they went 20,000 over, right? That's going to tell us a story of what's currently happening. And that allows us to help set realistic expectations based on data with our people. Makes
yep,
sense?
exactly.
Yep.
This is why it's important to have good relationships with your co-ops, right?
Exactly. There are definitely some brokerages that live by the old school mentality, like, I can't tell you details, private information, you'll find out at closing. And that's fine, right? Bless them, be on your way. All right, thank you, bye. But like most agents, let's be honest, like, if you're an agent, I get called all the time. Like, what did this appraise at? Did that appraise? What's it pending for? Like, people need to know because there's competition happening in the market. People are actively trying to price homes to keep up with the market changes. So I'm not doing my coworkers, my co-brokers a service by telling them, you'll find out at closing. I tell them like, hey, it actually went around 2% over list price. We had this, there were this many offers. If yours has any sort of condition challenges like this, don't worry about it. Like, I give them some information. Help out your co-brokes.
Yeah. I called an agent. I got a listing coming up in Tacoma this weekend, and I called a couple agents, and one lady literally hung up on me. I said, how close to asking did you guys sell it for? It was on the market 36 days. And she literally just locked up and then hung up on me.
Oh.
I was like, what the?
Yeah.
But her name was Barb, and she was like, seemed like she was, 35 years in the business type of deal. So, I understand. It's all good.
Well, and that's it too. Like the way that real estate is done has changed. The way that us as brokers and agents who work together in the same market has significantly changed. Like, I think, in our market, especially, Mike and I have made it a specific point to say, hey, we're not like, in a way, we're each other's competition, but at the end of the day, we kind of both want the same thing. If you have a buyer for my listing, we have the same goal. So why can't we be friends? Let's do that. Let's be friends. Right.
I've sent people over to your listing over in Linwood there after we closed out ours. I mean, so I said, those are beautiful houses. So I said, call Rachael and Mike, so hopefully some of them did.
Yeah, I bet they did. We've only got 2 left. So it's working so far.
Awesome. I'll send you my referral agreement.
Appreciate it. Yep, absolutely, Chris. I'll never mind. All right. So we pulled comps. What else do we bring to a listing appointment? Does anybody have a roadmap page? I'll share my screen and kind of show you our teams just so you can see it. But this is, if you don't have, anybody see my approved and sold process overview page here?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, cool. We break this down for our clients in order to limit the overwhelm of the process. Okay. If you don't have something like this, we have it on both the buy side and the sell side, but we want to break down the different stages of this process and let them know that whatever pace they want to go at is perfectly okay with you. So how I explain this, the first phase, of course, is the preparation phase. In our market, we can't do coming soons. We can't market the property before it's actively for sale. We can barely talk about it, right? We can't post about it. We can't put it in our stories. I've gotten my hand slapped multiple times for these kinds of things, but we can share with other brokers in our office. We can, tap into the buyer database that we have. We can give, minor details on things, but this preparation phase, and I tell every client that we work with, this phase, I've had people take 5 days who are contingent and they're trying to get their home quickly on the market. I've also had people take 3 years. Anywhere in between that time frame is perfectly okay. because it is a lot of work to get a home prepared for the market, especially if you've lived in it for a long time. There's a process to go through, not just physically, but emotionally, to be letting go of this home and to be changing the home in order to have it be appealing on the market. So setting the expectation that this is done in phases has really limited a significant amount of people's overwhelm. Because when you walk in and be like, okay, so we're going to list it, and then we're going to do photos, and then we're going to do this, and there's tons of people showing it, and the open house is going to happen, then we're going to have an offer, and then you're going to move in 30 days. And people are like, what? Like, so overwhelming. It's too fast, too much. Let's slow it down for them. Slow down the process. There's a preparation phase. And then it's a whole other phase to actually go live on the market. We've got to have conversations. We've got to look at the market data again. I'm going to pull comps again for you. We're going to look at what's actively for sale. I'm going to look at what's sold and what can justify a higher price possibly. Then we have the active phase. And then, of course, the contract to close phase. Does anybody else have something like this that they use in their HVAs? The listing ones? Good. So we're bringing our roadmap. What about estimated net proceeds sheets? Cash
Yeah,
at
those are good
closing.
ones.
Hmm?
Those are good. Those are powerful.
Yeah, Rachel, I'm big on that one too. I remember Ed was earlier talking about the math and the money, and you know, I always think of that movie Jerry Maguire, right? And it costs money. It costs money to sell your home, and I've gotten more experience on that actually on the off market or investment side here, when you're providing two options of, hey, we can buy this home for cash at this price and all your expenses are covered. Here's your net out the door of 100 or 200K, or we can list right around here, but this seller net sheet, you're going to be paying all these expenses, and this is the reality of what it's going to come down to. And I think that's really important just to even have it as an estimate. I mean, it takes what, 3 minutes to fill out?
Yeah.
It's very easy to do. And I have found that to be really, really powerful, especially when you're putting the broker commission in there and you're pointing to them and saying, okay, here's how I get paid. Here's how the other agent gets paid. And it's just being very clear. Do you understand this? So I found that that's one of the most powerful things. And I feel better too.
Yeah, exactly. What we do is we will pull like the range of potential pricing for that particular property. So if it's if it could be 700, but with like phenomenal remodel and all these things, like it could be up into the 800s. We'll pull like a 700, a 750, and an 800 estimated net sheet and go over each of those. And then we'll pull out the one that's appropriate to that property after we've actually been there. We're looking at it, we see it, we feel it, we understand more of the condition and the location of it, right? Now, a language pattern that I learned a really long time ago when it comes to pointing out the commissions on your net sheet. Talking about money is the most awkward part of real estate. Asking people about their finances, talking about how you get paid, like it's awkward. There's no way around it. It's awkward. But if you're able to say, typically, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the way that the real estate world goes round and round is that when you sell your property, you cover both the buyer's office and my office, the listing office commissions. Now, the numbers that you see here are obviously, may feel big at first, but what you'll notice is that all of the value that we bring, all of the services that we provide, and all the magic that happens in regards to the negotiations that I do is all enveloped in this. And please know that I get a percent of a percent of a percent of the number that you see there. You pay my brokerage pays me, right? So naming it up front, like once I got bold about it, guys, years ago, once I got bold about just being like, this is what it is, this is why it is, this is what makes the real estate world go around, I hardly get pushback, ever. As people go, well, that's the way the real estate world goes around, because it does.
Yeah, I think you addressed that right up front. That's why the net sheet's powerful, because you can address the commission right there. I mean, face it, nobody comes in and saying, I want 6.5% or 6% or whatever it is right off the bat. You got to build the value into it, right? So if people see a net sheet, that's a good way to go over, here's the brokerage fees. This is what, it's going to cost you to sell your house, and there's all your other fees that you're going to pay. And I think that's always been a lot easier than just having the discussion of percentage. You
Yeah,
know,
agreed
we're
completely.
we're at 6%, you know, and then just keep moving. I mean, you know, when value exceeds price, the sale's made, right? So you build your value, show them the net, show them what it costs, and you shouldn't have any issues.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I think a lot of people, one of my favorite objection handlers that I don't have to use often anymore, but I certainly did before, is, well, you know, so and so will, you know, we'll list my house for 5% or whatever, apples, right? They'll list it for this much money. Like, will you match that? And I say, I completely understand that so and so is willing to do that. I would just like to challenge your thinking a little bit in knowing that if they're unable to negotiate on their own behalf for their own value, how on earth are they going to negotiate on your behalf for the value of your home?
That's a good one.
And they go, oh, because that person discounting their commission wants a quick sale. So they're not going to negotiate as hard, right?
The other question you ask them also, Rachel, I'm sure you do as well, I do, is what are they giving up? What are they taking out of the equation? Because everything costs a certain amount of dollars. What are they taking out of the equation?
Yeah.
And you don't know that because they won't tell you their equation typically. So
right. Exactly right. Yep.
I've got a question about that too. That's a great point that you brought up. I love that language pattern. So who do you suggest, or who do you like to pay for photos and cleaning and prep?
So it depends on the package that you use on our team. So we have a little bit of a sliding scale. We call it, it's a listing menu. So depending on the percentage that they're willing to pay, we will cover different services. Our VIP package will even cover a pre-inspection and a potential home warranty if we need to negotiate that in. But that's a much higher percentage than a typical real estate commission. So standard for us is that we cover photos. We will typically cover staging for particular price points or particular clients, like if they're VIP clients, repeat clients, that kind of thing. But we put limitations to it. So we'll pay for, you know, a 30-day staging. If the home's on the market longer, then we say that you'll pay the renewal fees for the staging if it stays in the house, that kind of thing. But as standard, we cover the photos. Good question, Dave. All right, so we've pulled the comps. We've looked at them. We're addressing them. We're looking at the condition of the property when we're there and discussing back and forth. A lot of people will get so caught up in the listing appointment about how their house is so much better than all these comps, and here's why. Okay, let it happen. Let them talk. Validate. Yes, you're absolutely right, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And at the end of the day, you know, the market is the ultimate judge. The market is the one who will let us know whether or not the buyers in this market really, really love that feature. And I'm excited to find out. The more the language patterns that we can use that make it about the market responding to their home and not our job to sell their home is so key. Another great language pattern that I've adopted is that my job, right? The magic of what I do, that my ultimate job is to market and negotiate on your behalf to get you the best terms possible. Your home selling for top dollar is a result of me doing my job well. I'm gonna say that again. Your home selling for top dollar is a result of me doing my job well. I market, I negotiate. What that does is it takes it out of like, oh, your job is this. No, that's a result of me doing my job. So then during the process, when they're pushing back on me, they don't want to address inspection items. They're upset about this one thing that the buyer said. They don't want to do these things or whatever. I can say, this is the part. Remember, we talked about part of my negotiation is being able to negotiate on your behalf for this. If I'm not able to do that, if you're going to be, you know, hard-headed about this, I can't guarantee the same results, right, of me doing my job. It's about the market because a buyer ultimately chooses what fair market value is. Anything to touch on with that, Ed?
Well, here's what I would say. I'm thinking of a couple different things, so I'm always a step behind you, Rachel. So I'm going to go back to your confidence in what you're doing. because it's funny, all these little things that Rachel does. And some of you might even be saying, gosh, I don't know if I can do that. Rachel's done it a long time. I don't know that I can do that. I've thought the same things over the years. There was a time where I would walk into listing presentations, we wouldn't agree on price, and I'd say, you know what, it really doesn't matter what you think or I think, right? It really depends what the buyer thinks and what the appraiser will approve and the bank will approve. So let's just go ahead and get an appraisal on it then. Let's find out what the third party market says this thing's worth. We'll push as hard as we can to get over that. But I don't want you to list your house today and then put it under contract within 30 days and then go through 30 to 45 more days of, I think my house is sold, just to find out, it's not sold.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you feel a certain way, but the problem is that's not going to get us to the finish line. And that's, you just got to be real with them in this aspect. And I've done this, 500 times, 1,000 times, where I know this is your second or third time, Mr. Seller. You probably haven't seen the pitfalls that come along because you had a couple good ones that happened. So I think we just got to get real with them like that. And the funny thing is, I'll get them to buy appraisals and pre-inspections and everything else out of their pocket. I will give them half back on their appraisals, is what I say, after we close.
Just hanging with you.
I would tell you, for several years, I don't go out on listing appointments as much anymore. For 5 years, I had people buying appraisals 90% of the time on their houses.
Wow.
It just prepared us better to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we've got our little packet for the listing appointment, right? We've got our comps, and our team uses Cloud CMA. I don't know if you guys use like a software that creates a really nice, cute, customized looking report with all the comps and the photos and all the details, but that's really essential. We also use like a binding comb and put it into a little book with our marketing packet, the TNT Proven Sold Processes packet. So it's in a nice, plastic covered packet that we're bringing to people to show that we have our stuff together. Like, I've prepared this for you. It's put together. It's yours to keep and look at and study, right? We also will bring, of course, the estimated net proceeds sheets, and we'll go over it and we'll leave that with them. And then I don't know if you guys is anybody else on YLOPO on this call? Just our team. Okay. Well, there's some cool seller suites that you get in YLOPO. Awesome, Todd. Do you use the seller suite tools? The seller, like the reverse lookup in the database and the seller generated reports for listing appointments. Have you ever used those, Todd? Awesome. Yep. Super, super cool tools. Totally gold. Exactly right. One other thing that I like to bring with me sometimes, especially if they're a really high C. So we've talked about the disc profile on here before. They're really high C. I will bring a printout of like the year over year stats in their zip code or their marketplace, like a market snapshot, and be able to kind of go over it with them. Because most people right now, maybe not right now, but the beginning of this month and in January, people thought that the market was tanking. People thought that the market was going downhill fast. And so again, when you can bring something that shows actually year over year, we're up 2.5% still, right, on price. If you can show them data, you're no longer calling them wrong. You're just bringing them new information that they need. So bringing a market snapshot is really helpful too. Okay.
I tell you something else that's interesting. Our Bryce started this on my team, and now he's got about everybody doing it. He'll bring, I don't know, most of your MLSs probably have some data sheet that you fill out that shows all the different details of the house. Mm-hmm. He'll bring that and take some photos of the house as he's going through. That becomes super helpful after you've been on a listing appointment, and then like 2 months from now is when you're going to do something with it and you're trying to remember all the little details. So just to prep for if it's not going to happen in the next week or so, to really know that house still.
Like it. Love it. Perfect. Well, guys, we're running into our time limit here, and I want to respect everybody's time. But any big ahas, takeaways, or any other questions on any of the processes that we've talked about today, from language patterns of setting the appointment, preparing for the appointment, and a couple of the little things that we were able to touch on in the actual listing appointment? No, everybody's got it. Awesome. We can go slay now. Perfect.
Here come the listings.
Yeah, exactly. I am happy to share our roadmap in the Agent Growth Hub group. If you guys want to R&D it and, take that's totally fine with me. It's a great way to show and explain, and again, like, remove the overwhelm of the process and say, hey, this is a phased approach, and every single phase that we move into, every stage that we move into, we'll discuss beforehand, we'll discuss while we're in it, and you'll know exactly what to expect from me and what to expect, what you need to do, what your responsibilities will be. It's a really good way to kind of break it down into, this is a process. We can sell people on a process significantly faster and better than we can sell them on us as people. Most people are very skeptical. Most people don't trust you for a long time. It is a lot of proof that you have to bring. It's a lot of promises you have to keep in order for them to really trust you. But a process on paper, something that's been done before hundreds of times, hundreds of people have gone through this exact process and had fantastic results. You can sell a process. And that's from Sharon, straight up from Sharon. All right, guys, quick announcement for everybody still on here. Next week, there will be a new link, okay? So we'll be posting it in the group. It'll also be going out in all of the emails that I send out to you all every single week. But make sure that you will re-register for that. For those of us at REAL, if there's anybody, several of us are here at REAL, it will also be streamed in REAL Academy. So kind of cool that we're going to be bringing this to the REAL community, but it's still very broker agnostic for the Agent Growth Hub. So there will be new links that everybody will get for next week. All right. All right, guys. Enjoy your week. Happy leap year. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Rachel.